In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. But for gamers, there was also longing. For years, players missed the good old days of gaming, when titles were bold, straightforward, and focused on delivering pure fun, instead of chasing microtransactions, battle passes, or endless live service grinds. Space Marine 2 arrived in 2024 like a relic from that era, a game that ignored modern norms and went back to the old age formula with tight gameplay, cinematic storytelling, and the sheer joy of smashing through hordes of enemies. For veterans, it was a reunion with Captain Titus. For newcomers, it was a glimpse into what gaming used to feel like: raw, unfiltered, and unforgettable. This is the low key POV, and welcome to Space Marine 2, the Retrospective. So, Space Marine 2 was revealed during the Game Awards back in 2021, and gamers, including myself, was hyped for this game for two reasons. One, this was going to be a true sequel to the original Space Marine from 2011, which fans and gamers thought they'll never see the light of day. And two, it presented an opportunity for the 40k universe and fandom to reach new heights. The 2024 release was a shockwave, with the launch being a massive success. The game at launch attracted about 2 million players, and within weeks it sold 4.5 million copies. That is insane. Now, Space Marine 2 offered players a single player campaign experience with an optional 3-player co op campaign, as well as PvE co op gameplay modes, which allowed you and the boys to have a more immersive experience in letting your testosterone flow like the developers intended in the name of the Emperor. It also had a multiplayer that was second to the modes I previously mentioned, and this made it not feel like a live service treadmill. It felt like buying a game in the early 2010s where there was no battle pass, no constant monetization, just a disc or a download and a promise of fun. Furthermore, the game rewarded aggressive playstyles with a robust and hard-hitting combat system, which veterans found familiar. It was a callback to the old guard of beloved third-person shooter games like Gears of War, Army of Two, and Max Payne. And if you were gaming back at the height of this time, you definitely had Space Marine 2 on your radar. I mean, just look at this game in all of its glory.
Do you hear that? Where are the traitors? They are everywhere. Honored brother, join us, and you may sate your rage and aid our cause. Lead me to the slaughter. Onward.
However, like many other games, the game did suffer from launch problems such as server instability, bugs, and balancing issues, which proved frustrating but was oddly familiar to anyone who remembered patching the original. Nevertheless, the game managed to set a new record for developer Saber Interactive as it became an instant hit. It was also nominated for both Best Game of the Year and Best Multiplayer at the Game Awards in 2024. A strong start for a potential franchise. As of now, Space Marine 2 is rated very positive on Steam and is sitting at an 82 on Metacritic and an overall above 80 on OpenCritic. One of the biggest praises that the game received from existing and new fans alike was its faithful adaptation and the dedication of the developers to not compromise on the essence of what makes the Warhammer 40k universe special. With CEO of Saber Interactive stating that when they signed on to make Space Marine 2, all they wanted to create was a throwback game to the good old days of gaming. Ah, the good old days, eh? Space Marine 2 became the talk of the gaming community in online discussions and by captivating players with its intense gameplay and immersive world. Needless to say, many gamers, including myself, found the game to be a fun and enjoyable entry into the 40k universe without the need to sit with diehard fans. But with the positive, there's also the negative reception received, such as gamers experiencing technical issues from graphical glitches to severe problems affecting gameplay. Some gamers also felt that the campaign needed to be longer as it left them wanting more. One of the biggest issues was the repetitiveness of the gameplay loop over longer gaming sessions such as the PvE modes. However, despite the issues, the game quickly became a multi-million seller, reaching 12 million players by 2026. Forums and discords buzzed like the good old days of game FAQs and fan sites, players swapping stories, debating laws, and sharing memes. Critics praised the epic scale of battles and Saber Interactive's ambition. Fans loved that it felt like a classic console game, straightforward, fun, and replayable. So, what did Space Marine 2 get right that made it so successful? And I've narrowed it down to a couple of things. One, faithful atmosphere. Back in 2011, the developers dared to put you in the boots of a powerhouse Space Marine. Years later, the towering power fantasy of being a Space Marine, just like the original, mowing down hordes of enemies, feels more alive than ever. With beautiful graphics and a sound design coupled with brutal, punchy combat, the game made you believe that you were an unstoppable son of the primal Guilliman and captured that essence perfectly. I mean, how do you watch this and not feel inspired to get some glory kills in the name of the Emperor?
We die! We die with vengeance on our lips! Vengeance! You're unfurious! My leg is gone, brother! Follow him! All formation! Back, you treacherous scum! Furious! He has fallen! Vengeance!
2. Rich lore. The faithful and rich lore resonated with players, newcomers, and diehard fans alike, with all of them noting how well Saber Interactive was able to capture the grimdark atmosphere of the 41st millennium. From opening with a Death Watch to discovering conversations about the salamanders, Space Marine 2 provided just enough fan service and Easter eggs to water the mouth of any 40k fan. You just needed to look for them. 3. No political agendas. The developers were very clear that Space Marine 2 would avoid overblown attempts at messaging or imposing morals on gamers, that it was simply a callback to old school gaming that is addicting and fun. There were no hidden agendas, no mixed messaging, no modern day gaming tropes that degraded the main character for the purpose of keeping the character or its world politically correct. The game simply knows what it is and is stuck to its guns. 4. Delays were a good thing. Things for Space Marine 2 were not always looking great, and it became ropey back when Saber and publisher Focus Entertainment announced a significant delay to the game, which was originally expected to release in 2023, as it was delayed to the second half of 2024. However, Willett said that this was the smartest move Saber has ever made. They saw that the end product was not ready and that it needed more time. And today, we can see why. Space Marine 2 has easily become the biggest Warhammer 40k video of all time, impressing both hardcore fans of the grimdark tabletop game and newcomers alike. 5. Community engagement. Roadmaps and updates felt like old school expansion packs, not monetization schemes. Players had access to all content immediately. There was no limited time events and exclusive cosmetics tied to battle passes. Many would say that the live service model diminishes the sense of urgency and excitement which comes with seasonal content. I beg to differ. I prefer the change of pace and my games not making me experiencing FOMO. 6. Year 1 and Year 2 content. Introduced new PvE and PvP modes such as the free siege mode, which was a highlight for all players, reminiscing the horde mode from Gears of War. new bosses, and the Tech Marine class expanded gameplay. The developers were able to set up the challenge of releasing enough DLC post launch, both free and premium, in order to satisfy fans who were always hungry for more content. 7. Cosmetics and customization. The cosmetics and customization which players can unlock through each available mode allow players to represent their favorite loyalists or traitor chapters, or even create their own unique appearances. Basically, it allowed players to experience the same creative freedom that they would get when painting Warhammer 40k miniatures. In short, Space Marine 2 captured the same magic as the Thunderhammer mission from the original, that feeling of unstoppable might. Now, as with every game, Space Marine 2 faced its fair share of criticism from both players and critics for a number of reasons. 1. Launch bugs. This was deja vu for veterans, but still frustrating from frequent disconnects and connection errors, particularly on the PS5, to performance issues, crashes, and graphical glitches. People that were playing on PC experienced difficulty in actually launching the game as well, like myself, which was insane. 2. Grind heavy progression. Some systems felt punishing, reminding players of the worst parts of modern design. Players felt compelled to engage with the difficulty settings that would still lead to failure, and this in turn affected player enjoyment and progression. 3. Missteps. Now, back in 2024, players were treated to a surprise update which had added the termination operation, lethal difficulty, and more. But what came alongside the new content was several balancing tweaks. These consisted of unexpected nerfs which made the game harder overall, reducing player armor on the ruthless and substantial difficulties, and Saber also halved the parry window of fencing melee weapons, while others like chainswords received a significant damage increase. All of this, coupled with other tweaks, led to the game being reviewed bomb by a wave of disgruntled fans. Then there was the combat mechanics. Now, personally, growing up with games like Gears of War and Army of Two, I found the combat quite enjoyable for what it is, but I do understand the frustration of newer players to third-party horde-style shooters. The combat system relies heavy on stun, knock, and stagger mechanics, which does lead to repetitive gameplay. And many players felt that continuously relying on mechanics of dodging and parrying diminished the depth and the flow of combat. Players also felt that the weapons, such as the bolters, lacked the impact and failed to deliver on the visceral and explosive feeling that is expected in the 40k universe. All in all, it's not a deep combat system at all. Lastly, we had the customization limitations. Fans longed for the freedom of mods from the early 2010s. Furthermore, some players expressed frustration with the fact that chapter armor sets, which you could purchase through the season pass as optional cosmetics, once you purchase that, you still had to unlock them within the game by completing heroic deeds before you could use it. All in all, players remembered tinkering with mods in the original, a freedom that official cosmetics couldn't quite replicate. So, what does this all mean for the future of the Space Marine franchise? Because of the major and unexpected success of Space Marine 2, with the game reaching 12 million players in 2026, Year 3 support has been added. This means more free content, cosmetics, operations, and quality of life features. Space Marine 2 has been the biggest success for Saber Interactive, and as such, Tim Willits, the Chief Creative Officer at Saber, mentioned that following this success, Saber is already planning ways to follow up with various story ideas, which could either end up as DLC or a full-blown sequel. And as confirmed by Saber Interactive, Space Marine 3 is already in development as announced on the X page. But Saber Interactive has also noted that even though Space Marine 3 is going into development, Year 3 support will continue for Space Marine 2. This is a good thing because the developers see that they've been rewarded by the player base and the fans, that they keep on continuing to support the game. And as such, Saber Interactive is rewarding its players with another third year of support. Now, with the sheer success of Space Marine 2, This shot Captain Titus to a whole new level of game stardom, from an episode on Secret Level exploring that he's a man with no fear, to Captain Titus now back leading the second company of the Ultramarines to reclaim the 500 worlds. Just as the first game became a cult classic, Space Marine 2 feels like the foundation of something bigger. And this is a franchise reborn. Space Marine 2 wasn't just a sequel, it was a time machine. It reminded us of what gaming used to be before monetization dominated game design. For those who fought in the Emperor's name back in 2011, it brought back the rush of youth, the thrill of battle, and the joy of a shared fandom. And for new recruits, it forged memories that will one day be their own nostalgia. The Emperor protects, and Saber Interactive delivers. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel, The Low-Key POV, and hit that notification bell to know when I post the next video. Also consider leaving a thumbs up on this video. It does support the channel. I do appreciate it. Your support does motivate me to put out more videos, because this does take a lot of time with working a full-time job as well, but I love doing this. So thank you for all the support, and until next time, happy gaming. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.